Will the House come to order, Mr. Clerk?
Aloha and good morning. Today's invocation will be delivered by Representative Sean Quinlan. Will the members who wish to participate please rise?
Please be seated. You know, when I look around this chamber, I don't see what the general public sees. I don't see power. I don't see chairmanships. I see a family. I see my family. And I know more about you folks than I even know about a lot of my blood relatives. I know that Cedric believes in ghosts. I know that Nishimoto, despite his gruff exterior, loves every animal on Earth. I know that Aaron is the best speechwriter in the entire state. I know that Val never stops tapping her right leg. She's probably doing it right now as we speak. And I know that Nadine is a great mom. And I know that some of you are leaving, and I know that you will be missed. But I want you, all of you, to hold your heads high. The work that we have done this session, the people that we have helped, this will echo for decades. I want to leave you today with an ancient Turkish proverb. If you speak the truth, have a foot in the stirrup. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Quinlan. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Aquino, Ms. Bellotti, Mr. Bronco, Ms. Clark, Ms. Costales, Ms. Eli, Mr. Ganadin,
Mr. Gates, Ms. Har, Mr. Hashem, Mr. Hashimoto, Mr. Holt, Ms. Ichiyama, Mr. Iligan, Mr. Johansson, Ms. Capella, Ms. Kitagawa, Mr. Bertrand Kobayashi, Mr. Dale Kobayashi, Mr. Kong, Mr. Lopresti, Ms. Lowen, Ms. Luke, Ms. Martin,
Here.
Mr. Matayoshi, Ms. Matsumoto, Mr. McDermott, Mr. McKelvey, Mr. Mizuno, Ms. Morikawa, Ms. Nakamura, Mr. Nakashima, Mr. Nishimoto, Mr. Ono, Ms. Okimoto, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Peruso, Mr. Quinlan, Mr. Sayama, Mr. Takayama, Mr. Takumi, Mr. Tam, Mr. Tarnas, Mr. Todd, Mr. Tokioka, Mr. Ward, Ms. Wildberger, Mr. Woodson, Mr. Yamane, Mr. Yamashita, Mr. Speaker.
Present.
Mr. Speaker, 51 members are present.
Members on item 2, reading of the journal, Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, may this matter be deferred?
So ordered. Item 3, Mr. Clerk, are there any messages from the governor?
Mr. Speaker, there are none.
Item 4, Mr. Clerk, are there any Senate communications?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, if you and the members will turn your attention to the addendum to today's order of the day. We are in receipt of communications informing the House that the Senate has reconsidered in disagreeing to amendments proposed by the House, has moved to agree, and has passed the noted Senate bills on final reading. We are in further receipt of communications informing the House that the noted House and Senate bills passed final reading in the Senate.
All right, members, we're on introductions. Are there any introductions? Representative Ono.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is my final day here in session. So for the first and last time, I'd like to introduce my wife and best friend, Lily, and my son, Lucas Kenji Ono. Lucas, welcome to Dada's place of work. Welcome.
Representative McDermott.
Speaker, I'd like to introduce my staff. Tiana Elisha Payne. Tiana, will you please stand? Lefa Molotiki. They've done a great job. Please give them a hand. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to introduce my bride of 36 years, Utu Fa'asile. Utu, please stand. Thank you.
Representative Wildberger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery today, we have my office manager, Natalia Hasi-Burdick, and partner in crime. I want to share my deep appreciation for her 4 years of commitment and service to South Maui and to this body, and hope to see her joining you next session here on the floor. Thanks, Natalia.
Representative Ilagan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to introduce to you Councilwoman Sue Loy and Council Member Tim Richards. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Okimoto. Representative Okimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to kindly ask my mom, Anita Aquino, who is here. She flew here from Hawaii. And my daughters, please stand, Rebecca and Emma Okimoto. They're here begrudgingly. They did not want to miss school today, but I told them it's kind of a big day for mommy. So I would like to introduce them and welcome them to your House of Representatives. If I could have their names entered into the journal. Thank you.
Representative Costales.
Mr. Speaker, this morning I would like to introduce my son, David Nakal. He's my youngest son of 3. He is a mobile crisis worker, so a lot of the people that we've helped this session, he's dealing directly with, and I'm very proud of the work he's continues to do. I also have a very good friend visiting from California, from Los Angeles. If you could please stand, John Castro. John is actually, thank you. If any of you have seen the movie, The Debuts, it's a Filipino-American film starring Dante Basco. John was the writer on that film, and he's visiting us today. So welcome, John. And I would also like to introduce my staff, Mason, Satiridian, thank you. And then also watching in the office is, right up there with them is Mike Cullen, and also Chanel Cullen, who many of you know, and they have been my rock this session, exceptional. And they never want to come down to be introduced, but I'm so grateful that they're here with all of us today. Welcome to the House of Representatives. Thank you.
Representative Johansson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I hardly ever do this, but I would also be remiss if I didn't introduce my office family. And joining us in the gallery is David Enriquez, who's this is his second session with me, and I judged his senior project, what seems like eons ago at Moanalo High School. So he's been with me for a while. Also Steve Nagata from our office. And we have Sean Rodan, also from our office, Yaley. And my office manager, Doreen Eddy, who also was a session hire before. And lastly, even though we share her, Jennifer Tawara-Honold, who was my full-time intern before she was Representative Kisagawa's office manager. Welcome to your House of Representatives, and thank you.
Representative McKelvey.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Again, because this is the last time I can make an introduction on this esteemed House floor, I would like to go ahead and introduce my wife, Val, who I've introduced several times, and I will do one more time. And she is joined by my office manager, Wendy Wilson, who's been, both of them have been an amazing support system for me all these years, and not only to me, but also to my constituents as well. So everybody, welcome them to your House of Representatives.
Representative Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery today, I have students from my alma mater, Kwananako Middle School. These are the Student Government Student Association of Prince David Kwananako Middle School. These young people aspire to be future leaders of our state. They're here to learn about civics and see our government in action, and it's terrific that they're here on the last day of our session. Joining us are Caden Camacho, Wave, Caden, Hudson Kukera, We have Caleb Hewen, Charlotte Jian, Karina Kim, Samsung Kwang, Anuhea Leong Wilkinson, Amy Liu, Ethan Mitchell, Kira Pulsifier, Misha Savatara, Sadie Sowit, Marley Sekimoto, Haley Sabati Bond, Maya Suganuma, Aiden Tran, Michael Vasconcelos, Zachary Yee, and their advisor, Corey Izumoto, who is the husband of Charles Izumoto, who works with Senator Moriwaki's office. And if I could request their names be inserted into the journal, and if we could give them a round of applause. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also have several other introductions.
Please proceed.
Also in the gallery is my husband, Michael Luke, who has not been in the gallery for maybe about 20 years. And my very dear friends, CJ Leong, and of course, my dear friend, Heather Juni, and Amy Agbayani, and of course, my staff. Let me see who's here. I can't see this far. But so if you can all stand, I introduced them before, but I think because they weren't here on the budget speech day, they wanted to be here for Sine Die Day. If they could all stand up, and if you guys could just give a round of applause to these guys. These are the guys who work so hard throughout the year. My heartfelt gratitude to all my staff. Thank you. And after session, if you see what they have done overnight, I kept trying to get them to go home last night and they refused. And now I know why. As soon as I walk into my office, the whole office is decorated. It's almost like the Smurfs just barfed all over my office. So come on by to see what they did because it's amazing. I mean, I walked in and I was so moved. So I already started crying. So I don't have any more tears. Sorry to disappoint you, but thank you, my staff. I love them very much. Thank you.
Representative Aquino.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the gallery, we're joined by the champions of HCR 56. What that is, it's basically a resolution introduced by the Filipino caucus that requests the DOE to implement a curriculum that focuses on Filipino culture and identity, being that we are one of 4 here in the state. So I'd like to introduce some of our special guests, and these are the champions once again. I'd like to introduce Raymart Pilote, Eliza Espinoza, Marissa Halagao, Mariah Ramo, Landy Resuelo, and Mr. Speaker, they are joined by some of the most influential leaders of our community, Dr. Amy Agbayani, Leon Florendo, Norman Sales, and Philip Fernandez Brennan. Please welcome them, members. Thank you very much.
Representative Yamani.
Mr. Speaker, I very rarely stand up to do introductions, especially for my staff, but this year is quite special. I have Johnson Pham, please rise. He's actually came from DC back home to work for me this year. And then I have Lauren Oakland, please stand. Lauren, if her last name sounds familiar, she is the daughter of former Senator Oakland. Welcomed her to our committee. And so just want you to know that I used to see her being pushed around this building in a stroller, and now she is a beautiful young lady about to get married. Thank you.
Representative Nakamura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to recognize in the gallery today my two staff members. My office manager, Ben Viernes, is still in the office working, but I have Anna Maniar and Jessica Gasman. Please stand to be recognized. They have prepared me for all of my hearings and committee meetings and made the office so much fun this year. Thank you so much. And I also would like to recognize and give a shout out to my daughter, Casey Nakamura. It's been great working together this session.
Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also normally don't do this, but if I could introduce members of my skeleton staff, the Majority Leader's Office that has actually been very slimmed down over the last session. Attached to us is Brandon Machida with House Communications, if you could please stand. Also joining him is Ronley Lakalak, and you're gonna see they're kind of spread out because Majority Leader's Office is often spread out. Ronley is going to be joining the European Football League and the United States Football League, and I'm probably messing it up shortly after this session, but it was so wonderful to have him. Also, Tammy Kim, if you guys could stay standing. Tammy worked first with the governor's office and then this year worked for the Majority Leader's Office, and she will be joining the Western Governors Leadership Institute as the Hawaii representative. So I've just had a stellar staff, and here on the floor is Morgan Painter, my office manager, who has just kept our Majority Leader's Office staff running and going. So thank you to these wonderful staff members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Kitagawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to introduce my office staff. I see them sitting up there, and this is the first time they've come down to the chamber. And just like to thank them for their hard work this session. So I have Sarah Kael, Robin Hensky, Garrett Cho, and my office manager, Jennifer Tabaro Hano. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd also like to acknowledge my staff. I have my office manager, ASM, Sarah Frank. I have Jason Buffer. And I'd also like to give a special recognition to Aiden Waldrop. He is our UH college intern for this entire session. If we can give them a round of applause. I'd also quickly like to thank our House Minority Research staff. Up in the gallery, we have Carol, we have Sarah, Kelsey, Jillian, Eunice, please rise. And then we also on the floor have Kaohi, Tom, and Kyle, if we can give them a round of applause for their hard work this session. And she was sitting separate. Angela, please stand also. Sorry.
Representative Woodson.
Thank you, Speaker. I typically don't do this, but I wanted to this year. We have with us our office team, and they are a very strong team, and I greatly appreciate that. We have joining us Lauren Caldwell. She tells us what to do. Please stand. Thank you. We also have Jenna Dela Cruz and Maria Contliet. Thank you so much for your work. I greatly appreciate you.
Representative Ono.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry, I was remiss to make two introductions. My staff is also up in the gallery. They've been wonderful. Dylan Sakuma and Kelton Cheney, can you please stand and rise? Thank you for your service on behalf of District 27.
Representative McDermott.
Speaker, late introduction. Mr. Cesar Coelho, also a member of my staff. Stand up, Cesar, please be recognized. Thank you.
Representative Farr.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Up in the gallery, I see one of our favorite people from the West Side who's been a champion against all these illegal fireworks on the West Side, Angie Maureen Andrade. Please rise. Welcome to your House of Representatives.
Further, Representative Lowen.
Sorry, I wasn't planning to do this. My staff is not down on the floor, but my office manager, Miley Edwards, is watching from upstairs. She never really wants to come down here. She's been with my office, I think, for 5 years now, between working as session staff and my office manager. And this whole past year has been doing this full-time job and law school full-time. And she's incredible. It's been a challenge doing both. So she's going to be leaving after this session. And I just wanted to thank her from here on the House floor. She's been stellar and she will be greatly missed, but we're hoping to lure her back in potentially next year. So thank you.
Representative Mizuno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would be remiss if I didn't recognize my staff. They're watching upstairs in the office, and I just wanted to thank them for all they've done. As a staff person for 4 years myself, they do a tremendous amount of work and don't get the credit. So Christine Fenn's been with me for years. Charlie St. Sure, we love them. They're our family. And of course, my boss, Joji May Basadio Mizuno. And I didn't want to say this because this is kind of like an announcement, but Christine forced me to say this. She wanted me to thank you and all the members, as well as many of our support offices. We're going to raise over $2,000 for the Hawaii Food Bank with all of your help. And I know this sounds like an announcement, but again, they forced me to say this. They wanted me to thank also Reps Aquino, Baladi, Hashimoto, Sayama, HMSO, as well as LRB, and a number of other members that helped bring canned goods to our office. So if we can give them a warm round of applause, and all of you for helping the Hawaii Food Bank. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, are there further introductions? Representative Tokioka.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you. I know we've introduced them before, but there are some new members, Mr. Speaker, from the Longshoremen ILWU. And so I'm not going to introduce the ones that we've already introduced, but there are a few of them that are here that we haven't introduced yet. So I'd like to call them by name. Vic Papa. Stand until we introduce everybody else. David Mayava, a good friend of Kauai. Nate Dudoit. Ken Chow. Lemomi Atwood. Lawrence DeCosta. Will you please rise and be welcomed by your House of Representatives? Thank you for being here and being here all the time.
Okay, are there further introductions? If not, we will take a recess subject to call of the chair. Recess.
Majority caucus, quick caucus in the caucus room. Majority caucus, caucus in the caucus room. Thank you.
With the House come to order. Members, we're on item 5, unfinished business. We'll take a couple of motions. First, the motion is to suspend the rules. Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I move to suspend the rules of the House in order to consider certain House and Senate bills for final reading by consent calendar.
Representative Matsumoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to adopt Conference Committee Report numbers 253-22 through 255-22, and that the House and Senate bills listed on pages 1 and 2, as amended, pass final reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All right, members, is there any discussion beginning with Conference Committee Report number 253-22? Any discussion? If not, 254-22, 255-22. The next page, House Bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Representative Holt.
255-22.
Please proceed.
In strong support.
Please proceed.
You know, I considered just putting in written comments today, but I can't pass up this opportunity. I don't know if we're ever going to have another day like this, colleagues. This bill, as my counterpart in the Senate, Hawaiian Caucus, said, is the largest commitment to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands in its existence. $600 million. I feel like a broken record up here, but you know, it's an amazing day, Speaker. The amount of lives that will be changed by this bill, you know, I never thought we'd be standing here today. $77 million last year was a record high in infrastructure costs for DHHL, and to be having almost 10 times that amount of money being directed to the department is unfathomable. You know, it's been noted that the deputy was a little bit skeptical that we'd get here. We're here, Tyler. We made it to the last day, man. Thank you so much to the deputy, to the finance chair, to the CIP chair. I didn't prepare for this one today because I was just so excited, but thank you guys, everybody, so much. I can't wait to get this money spent. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Ward.
Speaker, strong support.
Please proceed.
Like the previous speaker, I too wanted to, in fact, I will put most of my comments in the journal, but to note the historic moment, quoting Governor Waihee, this is a banner year for the Hawaiian community. I know if we project how many houses they're building per year, we're probably another 100 years out, having waited 100 years to where we are today. So, Mr. Speaker, the point is this is a great beginning, but let us continue the momentum so we genuinely and sincerely are going to build Hawaiians for the homes that Prince Kohio in 1921 had promised and now is being fulfilled. Thank you, and thank everybody who had their fingerprints or their hand, their voice, their lobbying, whatever they did. This is a good thing. Thank you.
Representative Nakamura.
In strong support.
Please proceed.
Can I ask that the words of the representative from Kalihi be entered into the journal as my own?
So ordered.
And I'd just like to add that this past weekend, Representative, our majority floor leader, and I had the opportunity to be a part of the DHHL Lot Award for 51 lots in Anahola in my district on Kauai. And it was amazing to witness so many families who have been on the waiting list for years and years. One woman, over 40 years on the waiting list, finally got her lot award, and she came to the front, in front of the photo of Prince Kohio, and just cried in happiness. Mr. Speaker, these funds, the $600 million, gives DHHL the tools to develop infrastructure, develop the lots, and for the first time, flexibility to use the funds for mortgages and for rental assistance. So we're thinking outside of the box, and we're giving DHHL the tools and the time to implement. So mahalo to the finance chair, to the Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs chair for their support, and to the Senate for taking our majority package priority and bringing it to this day where we can vote and support this historic measure. Mahalo.
Representative Bronco.
Mr. Speaker, may I have the words of the representative from Kalihi and Kauai adopted into the journal as if they're my own?
So ordered.
And brief remarks.
Please proceed.
As the good gentleman from Kalihi said, this is great news and it's fantastic. And as Governor Waihe'e said, this is a banner year for Hawaiians. But I want to also say this is a banner year for Hawaii. Many non-Hawaiians also benefit from living on Hawaiian homesteads. And this is a huge investment into our economy as well. And so I just want to applaud the body for our work, for helping Hawaiians, and also just to reiterate the fact that when Native Hawaiians benefit, all of Hawaii benefits. Mahalo.
Representative Morikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to request the words of the representative from Kapa to be put in the journal as if they were my own.
So ordered.
And I'd just like to say that, it was touching to watch these 51 lots be awarded. I cried so many times. I don't know how much more tears I have for today. But I'd also like to say that, this is exciting for me because it speeds up the process in my district. So we'll be seeing more homes come up quicker than we ever anticipated. So thank you.
Representative McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too rise in strong support. Would like the words of the Chair of Housing and the representative from Kalihi and Hawaii Kai into the record as if they were my own.
So ordered.
And Villages Aleali'i, Mr. Speaker, which is in Maui, phase 1 was started and homes were built in 1986. There was a promise in the plan to build phases 2 and 3 and to bring much more affordable needed housing to beneficiaries since 1986. I was a senior in high school, Mr. Speaker. Just to let that sink in, I'm an old guy now. And because of this bill, we are now going to finally see the realization of the infrastructure and the homes that have been promised so long ago. And the affordable rentals, Mr. Speaker, I can't speak how important that's going to be to our Native Hawaiian population, many of whom are desperately seeking affordable housing in our area. So this bill, to me personally, is important. It's important to our community. And a rising tide floats all boats, is a good representative from the windward side, summed up in his own words, and like them adopted as well. And thank you, Finance Chair, and all the members for what you have done this year. It is truly unprecedented for everybody. Mahalo.
Is further discussion on this measure? If not, on the next page, HB 2512, Representative Ward.
Sorry, Speaker, I just wanted to confirm that comments in the journal in my remarks are going to be so ordered?
Yes, so ordered.
Thank you.
Okay, HB 2512, Representative Yamane.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you asked our Committee of Health, Human Services, and Homeless to address the growing problem of homelessness. Mr. Speaker, with the help of Finance Chair Luke, we have a bill today that invests $15 million into a program that has proven to work. Mr. Speaker, the Ohana Zones program, with coordination of the counties, especially the County of Honolulu, where we talk with the mayor and then their organization as well as HPD to continue a program that directly impacts those in most need. So Mr. Speaker, today, you have a measure here before you that not only invests $15 million, provides needed exemptions so a variety of programs can implement programs to help our most in need now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further discussion on HB 2512? If not, HB 1800, HB 2424, Representative Ward.
Speaker, 1800, climate change.
Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, 3 weeks ago,
in support or opposition?
This is with support, but with reservations. With reservations, with support, if I can put it that way. I have a mixed feeling, and this is why I'm standing up and speaking on this. 3 weeks ago, I introduced my sister-in-law from South Africa. She was in the gallery, and she reminded me, related to this bill, Mr. Speaker, there is green colonialism that's going on in the world. What is green colonialism? Never heard of it. That is, the developed world is saying, you guys in the developing world, you're going to have to use solar, you're going to have to use windmills, and get off the fossil fuel. In Africa and the rest of the countries are saying, hey guys, you guys developed on this, you're polluting our planet. Don't leave us out of the economic development equation. Mr. Speaker, you know I was a Peace Corps volunteer in the middle of Borneo. I was a country director at East Timor. I was a United Nations worker in Africa. 1/3 of the population of the world goes to sleep sick, hungry, or injured, Mr. Speaker. Green colonialism is real. So this is a great bill. But let's not forget the rest of the world, just like we don't forget those who are poor and disabled in the state of Hawaii. Let's not forget the rest of the world. There's 7-point-something billion people in the planet. We've got to make sure green colonialism doesn't spread the way the other colonial, well, you know what happened in the colonial wars, and we're still fighting some of that stuff in Ukraine with the Russians. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, with reservations, but with the idea that those who are, and I applaud, there's many champions here on the floor, Mr. Speaker, who love the green revolution, but let there be a mindful in the back of their head that green colonialism is living, and if anyone wants to be in touch with the third world, just let them see some of the statistics on the health, the hunger, and the injury that they go to bed with every night. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Lowen,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, in support.
please proceed.
This bill is about us taking responsibility for our emissions and our actions. The US is the highest per capita emitter of greenhouse gas emissions. And I would agree with Rep. Ward that when we talk about climate change, it's important to remember that developing nations are deserving of the same opportunities that, you know, developed nations had when they were developing. The reality is that to tackle climate change, it's going to take action from developed nations primarily, not only to take responsibility for our own emissions, but to help developing nations and to help finance climate action in other countries. So I think everybody's on the same page on that. This bill is about us taking responsibility for our own emissions here in Hawaii. And primarily what this does is fund a study to look at what are our pathways forward to decarbonization economy-wide, including looking at considerations of environmental justice, frontline communities, and low-income communities so that nobody gets left behind. So,
Is there further discussion? If not, HB 2424. Representative Yamani,
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Standing in strong support.
please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, whenever a child, a keiki of Hawaii, is injured, harmed, or killed, it impacts our community. Last year, an incident happened which called upon the community and many of our members to be asked, why? What do we do? So your Committee on Health, Human Services, and Homelessness, as well as your Committee on Finance and Chair Luke, took on this task, Mr. Speaker. We wanted to make sure that no keiki again is put at risk. So what you have today is a bill that puts $8 million into resources that will include increasing information technology, increasing compensation for services to help fill and retain vacancies, help the permanency support programs. Mr. Speaker, we're going to ask the department to come back to us next year to tell us what specifically needs to be done within the department. And Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all the children, both in foster care and adoptions, we don't want them to be left behind. So we have language in here, Mr. Speaker, that every child that is in placement that needs to be monitored will be monitored and protected. So Mr. Speaker, I'm glad to be here today to provide you a bill that not only puts the resources where it needs to be, but reinforces the fact that our keiki are important and will not be left behind. Thank you.
Representative Luke,
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and strong support.
please proceed.
You know, we have been grappling with the child welfare services, child protective services for years, and year after year, we have been asking Department of Human Services what other actions or alternatives or different type of approaches do we need to protect the children who are under the jurisdiction and protection of the state. You know, I think even as you saw the process of where this discussion happened this year, you saw the challenges and how the legislature grappled with this issue. So initially, when the House draft of the budget came out, we appropriated significant amount of additional positions to fund more either caseworkers or social workers within the child welfare services. And Department of Human Services came back and said, well, we don't need those positions. And it was baffling to us because we thought, if you have more caseworkers, isn't it just common sense that you will go out and monitor situations and find the best way to protect our keiki. So we were puzzled. And through the session, we looked at different alternatives, whether it's pay differentials or a different type of monitoring. And when the Senate bill came out, it wasn't until a few weeks, maybe even a couple weeks ago, that several providers came out and spoke up and had confidential meetings with few of us and even Senator San Buenaventura. And then we realized what we were doing was not completely accurate. Department of Human Services did not need new positions only because some of the services that were being provided were being contracted out to nonprofits like Halakipa and other Catholic charities and others that went out and monitor. Over the years, because the amount that was given to these nonprofit organization or service providers have not increased, and in fact, they have, in one situation, canceled because Department of Human Services lacked the funds to fund those organizations. That has led to some of the disconnect between us protecting kids under the ward of the state or within the jurisdiction of adopted families or even foster care. That was a huge revelation. And I would like to thank actually Kevin Dayton, which is very unusual because Kevin Dayton, who is probably not here, you know, he should be here, but the one time we're actually thanking the media, you know, he's not here because he thinks something more interesting in the Senate is happening, clearly. So, but Kevin Dayton, over the years, have continued to stress what is the state going to do to protect kids under the protection of our state, and what will the department and the legislature do to make sure that no other kid is under either some harm or under some kind of, you know, injury because of the situation that they're in. And then I think this, because of the continued advocacy of the media, Civil Beat, and others in the district and the community, the providers had the courage to step forward. Before, they didn't have the courage to step forward. And because of that action, they realized there were legislators and there was this body, including the Health and Human Services Chair, including, representative from Waimanalo, including many in the leeward areas, including members of the Senate who were willing to listen, who were willing to figure out what the problems were and take those suggestions and the commitment to continue those discussions that gave them the strength to come forward. And that's why we have this bill today. And I'm so encouraged because in the beginning of session, I think the representative from Waimanalo and I had a discussion about, okay, let's just keep this going because something will pop up, some idea will come out. And we struggle because we kept saying, this is not the right method, we know, but we have to continue.
Speaker. Yeah, I yield my time as the last gesture for the great Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Representative from Hawaii Kai. And I think because we continue to keep that discussion going and because we went out and listened to some of the foster parents, listened to grandparents, listened to the community, that we have this bill today. And that's what we are here to do. And I'm just so very proud of this moment. Thank you.
Representative Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support, strong support. I just want to say how appreciative I am. I tried to author a bill that really sought collaboration before session from DHS, from DOH, from DOE, from foster parents, from nonprofits that work with them. And at that time, I wasn't able to get any help from DHS in finding something that they wanted that could help improve the situation. And they opposed this bill and it made it very challenging. And I really am so grateful that the Chair of Health and Human Services took this on, and the Chair of Finance was committed to it in one form or another, whether it was a bill or the budget. And because of their efforts, along with their Senate counterparts, Despite reluctance from the affected agency, they were able to come up with something that I think will really make a difference that is so important to my community. Waimanalo has a long history of being foster parents and adoptive parents of foster kids. And in talking to people that have been around a long time, it has changed. Things used to be better than they are now. There used to be more services, resources, there used to be more supervision, is what they tell me. So I'm very hopeful that with this bill, we will bring it back at least to where we were before and hopefully make it better. And I appreciate the commitment of this body to make that happen and the generosity of funding it. Mahalo.
Is there further discussion? Here for not, HB 2218. Any discussion? SB 2218. Any discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, all majority members vote aye with the exception of the following. On page 2, HB number 1800, HD2, SD2, CD2, Rep. Kong votes no. Thank you.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measures before us, all minority members vote aye with the exception of the following. On HB 1800, HD2, SD2, CD2, Representatives McDermott and Okimoto vote no.
Are there any no votes on the Zoom? Members, have all votes been cast? If so, said measures pass final reading. We're now on page 3. Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Senate Bill number 3048, Senate Draft 2, House Draft 1, Conference Draft 2, as listed on page 3, as amended, pass final reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on this measure? Representative Nakamura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, in strong support.
Please proceed.
This bill provides $300 million to the rental housing revolving fund that's administered by the Hawaii Housing Finance Development Corporation. For the first time, $150 million of the $300 million can be used for families making between 60 to 100% of the area median income. So this is for our working families. Up until now, this group has not had the resources, we've not provided funding subsidies to nonprofit and for-profit developers to target this income group. And this is the group that leaves Hawaii every year because there's no housing available. So I'm thrilled to be able to support this bill today. We will, between this bill and the DHHL waitlist bill, of $600 million. We'll have close to $1 billion this year to address the affordable housing concerns. And this will translate into 5,000 to 6,000 additional housing units for all families in Hawaii. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Is there further discussion?
Speaker.
Representative McKelvey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to stand in strong support.
Please proceed.
May I have the words of the Chair of Housing enter the record as if they were my own?
So ordered.
And I believe that 60% to 100% figure is quite profound, Mr. Speaker. This is the group upon which the hammer stroke has fallen the hardest. This is the group that is in most dire need of affordable rental housing assistance. This is the group that is desperate for the help of the state of Hawaii and the legislature. And for that, and for the people in my district in Maui, I'm truly grateful for the work that she and the vice chair have done, as well as the finance chair, because this group is the one that has been left behind and has had to leave our shores because of it. So thank you again to both of them and to the members of the body.
Is there further discussion? If not, we'll take the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measure before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measure before us, all minority members vote aye.
Are there any Zoom votes? If not, have all votes been cast? If so, said measure passes final reading. Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Senate Bill number 514, Senate Draft 1, House Draft 1, Conference Draft 2, as listed on page 3, as amended, pass final reading.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Right, members, is there any discussion on this measure? Any discussion? Representative Ganadan.
Mr. Speaker, I hope to not speak out of turn or take the thunder away from the awesome work of the finance chair. I was told that
Representative, are you in support or opposition?
I'm in
Please
strong support, Mr. Speaker. I was told that a budget is a reflection of values. Last year, we saw that during the height of the pandemic, this body reined in revolving funds, had the confidence to tax visitors at an appropriate rate and allow the counties to do the same. We saw over the last year that the market absolutely absorbed this nominal increase for visitors. There was no racket or uproar regarding a tax debate. People came and they will continue to visit. I hope that this body ensures that these rates stay in place and we continue to work with the Senate and the governor so that we can continue to tax at an appropriate rate and fund our communities as they are required. Thank you.
Is there further discussion? Representative Bert Kobayashi.
Mr. Speaker, in support.
Please proceed.
Some people will say that we are on a spending spree. We have $1 billion for Hawaiian programs. We have $1 billion in duplicated funds, to be sure, for housing. But we are also on a savings spree with $1 billion in savings when you add the $500 million in this bill that will go to the rainy day fund. I believe we will have, with the $500 million, $997 million combined in rainy day fund and hurricane fund. So we are doing both spending and savings. Kudos to the finance chair for also looking out to $300 million for the pension fund. Yesterday, I mean 2 days ago, we also put $300 million in the health insurance fund. So I think that we can say that we have both taken care of immediate needs, but we are also looking toward the future and putting in a very large and healthy cushion for the next finance chair. Thank you.
Okay, is there a further discussion, members? If not, we'll be taking the vote. Representative Morikawa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measure before us, all majority members vote aye.
Representative Matsumoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the measure before us, all minority members vote aye.
Are there any Zoom votes? Members, have all votes been cast? If so, said measure passes final reading. Members, could you please refer to your digital action sheets? We'll be taking up a House concurrent resolution. This is for a motion to agree. So first, for the motion to agree, Representative Bellotti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to agree to the amendments made by the Senate to House Concurrent Resolution number 33 as referenced on your digital action sheets.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. For the motion to adopt, Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt House Concurrent Resolution number 33, Senate Draft 1.
Representative Morikawa.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion on HCR 33? Any discussion? If not, we will take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Members, we have 2 additional resolutions for action. Under item 6. Mr. Clerk, are there any resolutions for action?
Mr. Speaker, we have for action House Resolution number 185, authorizing and empowering the Speaker to perform and carry out any official legislative business during the interim between the 2022 and 2023 regular sessions. This measure is offered by Representatives Bellotti and Okimoto.
Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt House Resolution number 185.
Representative Okimoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Mr. Clerk, is there another resolution for action?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have for action House Resolution number 186, informing the Senate and the Governor that the House of Representatives is ready to adjourn sine die. This resolution is offered by you, Mr. Speaker, and Vice Speaker Mizuno.
Representative Belatti,
Mr. Speaker, I move to adopt House Resolution number 186.
Representative Okimoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. Members, before we get to announcements, could we take a two-minute recess? Recess subject to the call of the chair. Item 7. Before we get to the departing members' farewell speeches, we'll take announcements from members. Are there any announcements? Representative Eli.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is National Day of Awareness for Missing Murdered Indigenous Women. And I have had the privilege of working with the women in this body to address issues such as this. But I did want to take the time to share a story about a missing woman from my district. Melissa Estoy was 25 years old when she was last seen at Nanakuli Beach Park in an area known to those that reside there as Zubland Beach. It was the afternoon of January 16th, 2018. Surveillance footage from the area showed Melissa walking into the ocean, but did not show her return to her car. The vehicle, a 1991 gold Honda Accord, was found 2 days later at the beach with her belongings inside, keys in the ignition, and windows rolled down. A search in the ocean turned up no sign of Melissa, and she remains missing. Many investigations were done into tips that were given since she went missing, and none has led to her recovery. And so I just wanted to take a moment to remind us of all the Indigenous women across this country that go missing every day and remain missing. So, mahalo.
Representative Capella.
Melissa's story is not unique. As the representative from Nanakuli has stated, there are thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women across our state and our nation who have been silenced. So the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's Movement is a movement that advocates for the end of violence against Native women. It also seeks to draw attention to the high rates of disappearances and murders of Native peoples and the silence of these women and girls. So while we have so much to celebrate today as a body, it shows that we still have work to do. And because of that, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence at the appropriate time to honor the Native women and to remember the Native women and our sisters who have been murdered and our sisters who we are still searching for, including Nanakuli resident Melissa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, let's observe a moment of silence now. Could the members and the guests please rise for a moment of silence? Thank you very much. Members, are there further announcements before we get to, okay, Representative Morikawa?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Star Bulletin newspaper on Sunday, December 31st, 2006, a letter from our current Speaker and Finance Chair was printed. I have framed it and kept it in my office as a reminder of their intent to reform the State House. I want to share some highlights of this letter. One key indicator of how the legislature will conduct business is the way it selects its leaders and committee chair people. The Senate has gone the right direction with its focus on openness. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said of the House of Representatives. We must recognize that we are elected to serve the general public and that it is not too late to bring about reform. By working with the Senate leadership, the House can implement a progressive agenda that will improve the legislature and residents' quality of life. Here are a few things that we can do. Increase ethical standards. The House needs to prevent self-dealing, which results in bad legislation and policy decisions. We must set higher standards and learn to enforce them, even against our colleagues. Approve immediate tax relief for working people. Programs such as the Earned Income Tax Credit can provide more than 20 million annual tax relief for thousands of working families in Hawaii. The federal government and 20 other states already have adopted the EITC. Hawaii should provide this and other tax relief to our residents. Pass an aggressive renewable energy agenda. In recent years, the House has watered down bold proposals to reduce our reliance on oil. We can no longer afford to do this. We must set a comprehensive plan to reduce our dependence on foreign oil and its effect on other facets of our economy. We cannot continue to prolong action if we are to become more self-sufficient. It is time to put aside the old way of doing things. We believe that our generation and those that follow deserve a sharp and aggressive legislature that will work for the public interests. We hope the House is up to the task. Mr. Speaker, you and the Chair of Finance have finally accomplished your dream of over 15 years ago. Congratulations and thank you for your love of Hawaii. Thank you.
Representative Ward.
Mr. Speaker, I understand that this is the time that we have the last chance to publicly thank those who are leaving. Would it be appropriate to say a few things?
Yes, please proceed.
Thank you. And I was reminded by the gentleman who wears an ascot and is one of the best dressed people. If I'm not brief, I'm going to have a difficult time this afternoon. First, to thank all of you 11 who are leaving. May the winds be behind you. And I would be amiss if I didn't say that this side of the aisle is going to lose 50% of its numbers. It's a big percentage. But I want to point out first my little brother from Eva Beach, Representative McDermott by name. It's been a pleasure serving with you. As a Marine, I know you're up for the battle that you have for the U.S. Senate. May the Lord lead you accordingly. And to my colleague from Mililani, who we hope to call Council Member Okimoto, the best to you and to all of the things that you've done with Representative Matsumoto and myself, we greatly appreciate it. May the winds be behind you and may those seats that you fill now be filled by the equally qualified, passionate, committed, and for everybody. Remember, it's not about you, it's about the people of Hawaii. That's why we're here. So congratulations to all of you and following winds be behind you. Thank you.
All right, members, further Representative Mizuno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could I have the words from my good friend from Hawaii Kai placed into the journal as if they were my own?
So ordered.
I'm going to ask for a kind indulgence. The majority members, I support them in their reelection or their bid for a new venue. Representative Luke, I got your back. It's a given. I support our majority members. I'm going to say something in the spirit of bipartisanship that I didn't get to say a couple years back when a good friend from the GOP retired. I miss my old friend, Representative Thielen, and I regret not saying anything because right after that, they did their announcements. We presented a certificate in lay, and then we're done. So I'm not going to lose this opportunity. I wanted to thank the good representative, Minority Leader Okimoto. We did a couple months ago, we did a civil cafe, and they're going over the salient points of the bills for this session. Interestingly enough, I think Val and I agreed on everything. In fact, we almost agreed on everything she brought up during that civil beat cafe, that I think gambling is one of the issues we disagree with. And I just wanted to thank the members, but thank Minority Leader, who is so humble, goes door to door, really shows that her constituents are her employer, displays that she's a public servant, places everybody in the state above her. And because of Minority Leader, our communities are better, our state is a better place. And I think I've learned a lot from her, so God bless you. Thank you, Speaker. And for all the members who are departing, like my good friend from Hawaii Kai said, God bless all of you. We love you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Lopresti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to give my fond aloha to all the members who are departing, but I especially wanted to thank my colleague from Eva Beach, who he and I, though radically different in the political world, we share the same faith and we share the same commitment to the values and principles that guide us. And that's why I have such deep respect for him, because though I disagree with pretty much everything politically that he stands for, as he does me, I know it comes from a place of genuine intent where he's trying to make the world a better place as he sees it. And I'm trying to make the world a better place as I see it. And that's what brings most of us here to this place. And I just want to honor him and his family for their service and sacrifice to my community, to our community of Evan Beach. And it was an honor serving with you, Bob, for 3 terms. And I wish you the best. Aloha. Aloha.
Representative Gannon.
I'd like to thank the Chair of Corrections, Military, and Veterans Affairs for his guidance for me, a fresh person, over the last 2 years. I think we were both nervous meeting each other at the beginning of last session, and he showed me absolute professionalism, a way to act in this building, and a way to react to the public that I'm going to carry forward through the rest of my career with all of you. I think it's unfortunate that we don't get to work together in the coming years, and I was really looking forward to it. So just a big thank you.
Representative Caruso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say that I'm impressed because I think we have so much to be proud of this session, the least of which, in my view, is the funding. I think that this body together has really made a shift. And at the same time, I'm just very sad to see some of these colleagues, all of the colleagues who are leaving. And thank you for your contribution to our work.
Are there further announcements? Representative Iligan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have an event announcement. In honor of each of our staff in each of our offices and the support house staff, the freshman class, there's 10 of us. Please stand up, freshmen. Please stand up because you have put time and effort for this. The freshman class prepared shave ice, halo halo, and cotton candy to say thank you. And this Mahalo House staff event is from actually all the members and sponsored by you, looking at you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of all the House members, please come to room 329 at 2 p.m. to grab shave ice and halo halo and cotton candy. We want to say thank you very much to all of our House staff of your hard work for making us successful.
Representative Burt Kobayashi.
Mr. Speaker, may I say a few words about departing members?
Please proceed.
I think all of the departing members will be missed. Everyone makes a contribution. And who knows who will replace you? Will it be someone of equal stature and ability? I hope that you all have a productive and long career, even as you leave this body. I'd like to say some particular words about what I believe is our biggest loss, and that is our finance chair. She has been finance chair for 10 years through the best and worst times. She is the best finance chair or best money committee chair that I have served with. She has cognitive complexity to see the various parts, sometimes contradictory. She understands that sometimes the sum of the parts equals the whole, but at other times the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, especially when we come to her with our picayune little line items for this and that. And she smiles graciously and says, we'll see what we can do. Of course, sometimes nothing is done. But nonetheless, the good humor and graciousness of at least accepting that we have valid concerns is much appreciated. During most of her 10 years here, the budget was underwater. That is, the annual revenues were less than expenditures. And we survived on the basis of large carryover balances. And then came COVID, the biggest economic downturn in our history, with virtually zero tourists. And we luckily got bailed out in large part by federal government, Congress. And then this year, if there is any poetic justice, we have the largest budget surplus in history. And we have, I believe, spent it well for many good purposes, as well as I said earlier, put into savings the largest amount that we have ever had in history. So kudos aplenty to our departing finance chair. Thank you.
Representative Tokyoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I start, can I be allowed to insert comments into the journal? Because I would like to say something about everybody, but on behalf of our class, and there's only 5 of us left, Rep. McKelvey, who is one of our class members, is leaving us. And it's, I know all of us working with him throughout the years, our classmates, have enjoyed his humor and his wackiness at many times. And I will include comments into the journal about everybody else, but none of us want to be here all day. So to the rep from Lahaina, we're going to miss you. Aloha.
Are there further announcements before the farewell speeches? Okay, if not, so members, as you know, we have 9 members who will be leaving the House. And we wanted to give them an opportunity to make some farewell remarks. So first, I'd like to call on Representative Luella Costales, who is our newest member. She was appointed to the House by Governor Ige just 2 months ago, but we'll round it up to say she's been here for 1 year. Vice Speaker, could you please proceed with the presentation of the certificate? Representative, do you have some remarks for us?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since I've only been here technically for half a session, I'll try to take only half of the allotted time. But I guess to start, just a few days ago when we were doing the final roll call, I just sort of sat in amazement and thought, how'd I get here? You know, and really had me reflecting, thought of my father, who today would be 117 years old. He was born in 1905 and came from the Philippines in 1923. And I think his wish for me was just to go to college. You know, that was it. As I think a lot of in our community, that's our wish for our own children, including my own. So to sit here, it just really amazed me. So I started reflecting on my journey, and unfortunately, when the seat in District 39 opened up and some had asked me my thoughts about filling the seat, I thought absolutely not. You know, this is really for the younger people. This is, you know, their time. I've done my work. But at the same time, I did have to honor the request, the fact that they came to me and asked, would I consider it? So I thank all of those who saw in me that it was a possibility. I think coming from South Central Los Angeles in a small, tiny Catholic school on Martin Luther King Boulevard, where I think most of us were probably felt unseen, to come here and represent an entire district just really blows me away. For my friends who have supported me all the way, and many of them have been watching religiously through YouTube, and they're in other states, namely Vancouver, Washington, and Los Angeles. And it's really led to discussions on the invocation, who is giving the invocation, you know, what are they about, what's their story, what are some of the Hawaiian issues we weren't aware of. So it was good to know that others were really watching the work that all of you are doing and really honoring your thoughts and just helping to expand that knowledge. So I thank all of you for really providing that. We would always joke that it's like they were here with us every day and they really wanted their names inserted into the daily journal. So I just want to really recognize Susan Malvo in Vancouver, Washington, and Ingrid Richardson Leon, both of whom I've known since second grade, and we've been friends, and they've put the care of their sons as my godsons, and for me, vice versa. When thinking about this seat, I had to look at the reasons for doing so, and what is my role in this? And I would like to acknowledge up in the gallery, one of my staunchest supporters and brightest mentors, Amy Agbayani. I share her as a mentor with so many people in our community. She has paved the way for us, and somehow she has room for all of us to believe in the best of us and to believe in the possibilities of all we can do and to say, hey, I'll help you through it. You're not going to be there alone. And Amy and her team of women and men and students and seniors have all been there for so many of us. So I do want to just recognize the value she is in our community. And for me, I'd say after leaving this body today and after the end of session, that's what I want to be when I grow up, is what I've always been saying. And so I hope to move into that realm of supporting so many others who want to fill the seats that we have here and that will be vacant. Also want to mention Molly Mamerl, who's sitting next to Amy. She is my colleague over at the Oahu Economic Development Board, and very young, very bright, very smart, and one of the biggest reasons that I'm here with all of you today. I see a lot of my young self in Molly in getting involved in a lot of issues in the community, the environment, Black Lives Matter, seeing her put her time and commitment into it, but also seeing that they didn't have a lot of friends. They didn't have that relationship that would connect, and thought that maybe by taking this role, I could help bridge that and encourage them and also support them in saying, I did it, I know what it takes, and I know you can do it too, and I'll be there to support you. So Molly, thank you so much for the inspiration that you provide. I want to thank the governor for appointing me, and for you, Speaker, for your hard work and ensuring that I came on board quickly. Things were taken care of. Everyone gave me so much attention to make sure that I would be well prepared, from the chief clerk, sergeant at arms, the chief attorney, the wonderful IT department and people that are in it. All of this was possible only because of all of you. So I thank you. And finally, I just want to say thank you to the chairs for the committees that I served on. Chair Woodson, you were amazing. You were great. You were a mentor. You had the time when things didn't make sense to me. You made the offer to help, and I took it with full heart, and you spent a lot of time just getting me up to speed. So I appreciate that and all that you do. Chair Takayama, Chair Ichiyama, and of course, Chair McKelvey, who I've known probably the longest for a while. It was a historic session. So to be part of the menstrual equity bill, the Filipino issues, and seeing a GIA being supportive in my district for child and family services, a shelter in which my own family members have had to take advantage of, and to see that we can help support that. I'm very grateful. I had the most incredible staff, Chanel Cullen, Mike Cullen, Mason, Sardarian. Thank you so much. They're exceptional. They are probably the brightest, the most caring, and committed staff. I know they've been a lot, and they've been an example in resiliency, just being able to pick up and move on. And they were a big comfort when my boss and good friend Pono Shim passed away during session, and ensured that everything could be carried on. I leaned on them so much, and they really helped to lift. And I thank all of you for signing the certificate. I think we had about 48 members who signed the certificate for Pono on both sides. So that really means so much to our community and all of those who love him. And finally, I would like to, one more, a volunteer, Trevor Nagamine. Trevor, many of you may know he's worked in the House and offices in the Senate for many years. Was a student of Miss Peruso's. It's been really hard to say Rep Peruso because I've known her for so many years as an educator of my own children as Miss Peruso. But Trevor, you know, knowing him since I think middle school to come in and offer help, I really appreciate that. So many of you have been supportive. I won't go through all the names. I will thank you in person and give you hugs to thank you and to show my gratitude. And lastly, my family, my 3 kids, William Nakau, Leah Nakau, and David Nakau, as they continue their work in the nonprofit in education and social work, and also in the supporting immigrant legal services. I thought I could rest and relax. You know, they've got it, and but it looks like not. So I'm going to be joining Amy to really help our youngsters and students kind of continue the work that we're doing here today. And finally, my mother, who is at home watching, she's 91 years old, and many of you know that she's been in hospice care, which is why she isn't with us today. But she's my rock. She's our everything. She's our matriarch, and we're just valuing the time that we do have with her. I don't wear the color red usually ever, but I have been wearing it more this session just to honor her, and so that when she watches TV, you know, she can see that and know that she's always with me. And I think in wrapping everything up, I do want to share the words that I've shared at the invocation earlier, which is the words of Auntie Pilahi Paki and her prophecy that I learned and Pono Shim has shared with so many. And I'll summarize, but in the 21st century, the world will look for peace, and they'll look to Hawaii, because Hawaii is the key, and that key is aloha. And I just want to thank all of you here for your aloha, for helping me carve another notch in my key that has not only unlocked a lot of good things in aloha for me in moving forward, but it also helped to lock things, a lot of negativity and misconception that a lot of people share that we have about the work and the people that are done here. So I'm so grateful, and mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Costellas. Our next departing member is Representative Patrick Bronco, who was elected 2 years ago in 2020 and has served as the vice chair of the Committee on Water and Land. And as you know, he is also our young statesman of the House. Representative Parnas, could you please proceed with the certificate and lay presentation? do you have some remarks for us?
In my previous life, I moved around quite a lot, and I had to say a lot of goodbyes. This will be the hardest. First off, I want to thank my community. Kailua and Kaneohebe were such a strong force. People joke about us sometimes that we talk too much, but we're such a powerful force, and I'm so grateful for our community. To my family and friends, thank you. You've always been there to support me. When I told you folks from when I was going to move away from home to go towards homes, you were always there. I also want to thank my staff, Nikki Oka, Jemmy Bryant, Sheila Ringor, Alan Munioka, and especially Charlotte Farmer. It's always a constant and a friend. Also like to thank my buddies, Rep Sayama, you have the best smile, so always smile. Representative Ilagan, you can make any tense session happy, make people laugh. It's a special gift you have. And also to Representative Troy Hashimoto, you have such a big heart, and thank you. Always love it. Speaker, thank you so much. Every time I come to meet with you, I feel like your eyes are piercing my soul, and I don't know what you're thinking, but thank you for always listening. Chair Luke, everyone told me to be careful with you. And every time I came to see you, I just wanted to hug you and just say thank you. You're so caring and you're so loving, and you do that to everyone, and you care and you love our state. Thank you. Kyle, thank you for being such a strong mentor to me. Oh, excuse me, and being a good friend. Aaron, it's going to be the hardest to say goodbye to you. Remember the first time we spoke for 3 hours, and you've always been a constant friend. And Chair Tarnas, when Speaker asked me what I wanted out of a chair, I had told him I would like to be under a chair that I can learn and grow, and a chair that's super smart. And Speaker hit it on the head. I couldn't have asked for a better chair. Thank you. So I made it through the thank yous. That was the hardest part. Just some reflections of being here, right? What compels us to be here, stay late, go through these endless calls? You know, some of us or those from the neighbor islands to take some time away from their family. What compels us to do this? And it's aloha aina. It's a love of our land. That's why we're here. This is the work that we're doing. And it just shows how special Hawaii is. Whether your family is new here or your family is here for generations, you love this place. We all love this place. And this is what makes Hawaii special. I have been to many places in the world, but no place has the feeling of home like Hawaii. And so even though I'm departing, I know that this state is going to be in good hands because of your commitment to our people and to our beautiful state. Mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Branco. Our next member is Representative Val Okimoto, who was elected in 2018 and is now serving as the minority leader. And I will tell you that serving as the minority leader is a tough job, but she has handled it with grace and dignity. Representative Ward, could you please present the certificate and link? You have some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will do my best. I have to write things down, otherwise I get pretty malao, and then I just ask for forgiveness if I go over the allotted time limit. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker, and your leadership team for being gracious and respectful to me as the minority leader. Thank you to the House Sergeant at Arms, Rod, you and Tama, and your staff have been incredible to my staff and myself over the last 4 years and have truly been a blessing. Thank you for always forgiving me when I made a freshman mistake and doing all that you do to keep this body safe. To Brian, Rupert, and the Chief Clerk's office staff, thank you very much for taking care of all the members and making sure that we properly fulfill our duties as legislators. Especially thank you for making sure that we're in our seats for roll call every day. Mahalo to the print shop that supports all of us. And thank you, Tammy, for dealing with my office and our many printing faux pas. I want to thank also all the supporting staff in this Capitol, from the accounting to IT, to even our dear office custodian, Lagaya. We would be nothing here without you. To the House Minority Staff Office, thank you for providing the services you did to the Minority Caucus. And to the Majority Caucus staff, thank you very much for the service to this body and to the people of Hawaii that you provide. I would like to extend a special thank you to my Minority Caucus members, Representatives Jean Ward, Bob McDermott, and Lauren Matsumoto. Rep McDermott often told me that our caucus was like having a dysfunctional family, and that leading them was like her. Bob, I will say that you definitely spoke the truth. But despite our differences, I can confidently say that you each have shown me the example of what serving our constituents should be. Thank you for the opportunity to be your minority leader this past year. I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you to my chairs, representatives, and my beloved chairs, Onishi, Woodson, Quinlan, Takayama, and Kobayashi, for allowing me to have a voice in committee, for seeking out my input and accepting it, for answering my questions, and most especially for allowing me to vote my conscience without consequence. Thank you to my beloved people of District 36. It has truly been an honor to serve and represent you over the last 4 years. Thank you for allowing me into your homes and hearts. I would be remiss to not be thankful, especially to my office Ohana, some who are here today and those who are here in spirit. Thank you to Jamie, my first OM, for teaching me exactly what a legislator should do and be, for walking me around the building my first year just to make sure I was in the right place at the right time, and for teaching me and your protege, Eric, all you know about legislation and policy. I will say that Eric has been a much better student than I was, but this building has truly lost a master of policy when it lost Jamie Shadell. Thank you to Eric for being there with me through the thick and thin. Thank you for letting me text you at all times of the day and night because I had a question or forgot something, and for keeping my calendar straight because everyone in my office knows if it's not on the calendar, I don't know it exists. You are more than an office manager to me, you are a brother. Thank you to Kael for jumping in as my chief of staff during an unprecedented session last year. Your positive energy has been a great addition to my office. Last but not least, I want to thank my family and friends, some of who are here today. Thank you to my mom and dad, Dennis and Anita Aquino, who sacrificed so much for me so that I would have every opportunity possible, or that any opportunity I strive for in my life. I always credit my local roots and being grounded in my life to my upbringing on Kauai, my beautiful home island. And I know it is because of the hardworking, honest, and faithful example of you both, Mom and Dad, that I'm here today. Thank you to my Mililani Ohana, who loves and supports me and my girls. I want to thank Jesse for believing in me and supporting me no matter what goal I may be chasing, and for having faith in me and our Savior. And most especially, thank you to my two beautiful daughters, Rebecca and Emma, who despite, they were very unhappy that I pulled them out of school today, but I kind of told them I'm gonna pull a mommy card and be selfish today. They're here with me. You have been so patient, so much over the last 4 years. While I know neither of you asked for this life in politics, I hope one day you both know you are the true inspiration and motivation behind everything I do
for all I do is to help you and the future of our Keiki. I love you both so very much. No title is greater to me than that of being your mom. And these final thanks go to my fellow colleagues, many of you who I love so dearly of the House, the ones who are here today, the ones who came before us, and the ones who will precede us, who will follow us. Mahalo to all of you for your unwavering service to the public on behalf of your constituency that you honorably represent. Public service is a noble, humble, and worthy duty for all of us here who strive to serve the great people of Hawaii. I am grateful for the opportunity I've been blessed with to have served with you the past 4 years. Mahalo nui. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative Okimoto. Our next member is Representative Tina Wildberger, who was elected in 2018 and has served as the Vice Chair of the Committees on Government Reform, as well as the Committee on Energy and Environmental Protection. And as the members know, Representative Wildberger has just never been hesitant to tell us exactly what she thinks about something. It's actually a very good trait. Representative Hashimoto, could you please present the certificate and link? You have some remarks.
Okay, in keeping with my assigned attributes, I would like to extend obsequious adulation to everyone who provided me with any kind of support, benefit, advice, camaraderie, sorority or fraternity. Thank you all. I'm going to use my time, and I did time it, to share some thoughts about an existential issue that's happening right now on the federal level that I think is very important to have some words spoken about here on this floor. And since it hasn't happened yet, I'm going to use my time for this subject today. With the serious consequences facing 100 million women across our nation and the reality that Roe versus Wade is about to be overturned, I'd like to share some pro-life considerations. Pro-life means supporting Becky, who found out in her 20-week scan that the baby she was so excited to bring into this world developed without life-sustaining organs. Pro-life means supporting Susan, who was sexually assaulted on her way home from work, only to learn a month later that her assailant planted seed. Pro-life means supporting Teresa, who hemorrhaged due to placental abruption, leaving her family to make the impossible choice to save her or her in utero baby. Pro-life means supporting Kathy, who had her innocence ripped away by someone who she should have been able to trust, and her 11-year-old body isn't mature enough to bear the consequence of that betrayal. Pro-life means supporting Melissa, who's working 2 jobs to make ends meet and has to choose between bringing another child into poverty or feeding the children she already has because their father walked out on them. Pro-life means supporting Brittany, who realizes that she is in no way financially, emotionally, or physically able to raise a child. Pro-life means supporting Emily, who went through IVF, ended up with 6 viable implanted eggs, requiring selective reduction to ensure her safety and the safe number of fetuses. Pro-life means supporting Jessica, who's finally mustering the strength to get away from her physically abusive spouse, only to find out that she's pregnant by that monster. Pro-life means supporting Vanessa, who went to her confirmation appointment after years of trying to conceive, only to hear silence where there should have been a heartbeat. Pro-life means supporting Lindsay, who lost her virginity in her sophomore year with a broken condom and now has to choose whether to be a teenage mom or just a teenager. Pro-life means supporting Courtney, who found out she's already 13 weeks along, but the egg never made it out of her fallopian tube. So either she terminates the pregnancy or risks dying from internal bleeding. Pro-life means supporting George, who was hate raped after someone found out he was assigned female at birth and can't come out to his family, can't come out to his community or his work. Pro-life means supporting Nikki, who presents as a man and has a uterus and is intersex. He can't afford to raise a child. He can't afford time away from work to deliver an infant, recover, return to work to find he's lost his position. You can argue and say that these issues are pro-choice, but the truth is they are pro-life, their lives. women's lives, humans who have uteruses, those who identify as women and those who do not. Everyone loves someone who has had to face this choice. And I hope next year's legislature will take the decisive action to more firmly codify protections for abortion in our statutes and constitution, and provide funding for neighbor island women to access that right. Because the right to privacy and body autonomy is only useful if you don't have to buy a plane ticket and fly somewhere else to get it. Maui County might as well be Mississippi. Colleagues, it's been my distinct honor and privilege to serve the people and the Aina of South Maui for the last 4 years, and I thank you all very much. Aloha.
Our next member is Representative Takashi Ono, who was elected in 2012. He has served as chair of the Committee on Corrections, Military, and Veterans Affairs, as well as the Committee on Interstate Commerce. Rep. Ono was elected in the year of same-sex marriage. And I recall that he just never flinched on that issue as a freshman. Representatives Bellotti and Morikawa, could you please proceed with this certificate and lay presentation? You have some remarks.
In support, Mr. Speaker, with reservations. Mr. Speaker, serving in the Hawaii State Legislature was a dream job of mine. And just like many people here, we all have so many folks to be grateful for, so I have many people to recognize. First, the good people of District 27 who took a chance on me 10 years ago and sent me here. I'm still baffled that they made that choice, but I hope I've done well by them. To the House staff who make us look good, give us a place to do our work and make sure our work stands up in the court of law. Brian Takashita, the chief clerk with Rupert Juarez, previously CJ Leong, Sergeant at Arms, Rod Tananaka, previously Kevin Kuroda, Casey Hines at HMSO, Lisa and Joan were before him. Thank you to all those folks. Thank you to all the advocates and community and public that come and testify before us. We found out during the pandemic, this job is not the same without them. We miss them, and that Capitol community is something that's special and something that really touched me. Thank you to my colleagues, all of you folks here, and all the folks who I've served with over the past 10 years. There's no group that I'll ever meet that's more kind, smart, and cunning. It's because of all these folks that I have a seat at the table, a mic in hand, and a vote to cast. I'm grateful for them. I have a special thank you to my office manager, Jenna Takanauchi. She's been with me for 10 years, and she's been a wonderful, wonderful partner. What I admire about her is that she makes big things seem small. And in all my years in office, I can confidently say, bringing her onto my team was the best choice I've made. Now, Mr. Speaker, I have many shortcomings as an elected leader, but I'm thankful for the many folks in this caucus and in this room who have served as role models for me. Thank you to those members in this body who show so much humility when there's so much reason not to be humble. Many of these folks put their head down, they solve real estate problems, and they consistently be the bigger person even when they have so much reason to feel slighted. Many of them are anonymous outside their districts, and I gather probably the people in their district don't quite know the contributions these members make to the state. My only reasoning for why they keep being the bigger person, biting their tongue, and solving problems is just their simple love of Hawaii. Thank you to those members in our body who take on the weight of the world on their shoulders. This work is not only intellectually demanding, it's really emotionally draining. And there are folks in this body who take on enormous tasks and do so almost effortlessly. However, I do know that those members agonize over their decisions. There are tears behind closed doors, and some of these folks who have to make these hard decisions lose friendships because of that work. I admire them, and I hope to one day be able to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders like they do, and still give 5 minutes to your friends and do so with a smile. Mr. Speaker, this serving in the Hawaii State Legislature has been a dream job of mine. There will never be a better job that I have anywhere in my career. But this dream job, it's still a job, and jobs change. I have a hypothesis that some of the skills that we've all gained here, listening to people, identifying their problem, pursuing a solution, my hypothesis is that also can benefit us all outside of this building. I don't know if that's the case, but I encourage you all, stay tuned and please stay in touch with me. It's been the honor of a lifetime to serve with you all. Mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Ono. Our next member is Representative Aaron Ling Johansson, who was elected in 2010 and he has served as chair of the Committee on Labor and Public Employment, as well as the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. As was mentioned, he is the best speechwriter in the House, but he has also been a mentor for so many of us. Representative Belatti, could you please present the certificate and link? Do you have some remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do. As I rise to speak for the last time on this House floor, I'm struck by so many things. I'm wearing the same, you can't see it, but I am wearing the same tie today that I wore on opening day of the 2011 session when I first got elected. I haven't worn it since because I received a lei on opening day of 2011 that permanently stained it. And while I used to view that stain as a blemish and the tie as ruined, I find my time at the legislature has helped me to reevaluate and to see it in a new light. It's simply a tie with character. My tie's journey is very indicative of life, the many unexpected events that arise and how we choose to deal with them. Since opening day of 2011, many years have passed and much has changed. But as I reflect, one thing has remained the same and stands out to me the most. I recently learned about dispositional gratitude, or the practice of noticing and appreciating positive aspects of life, from an amazing, soon-to-be Yale freshman who will undoubtedly change the world. As I close out my 12 years in the House, I'm left with an overwhelming sense of gratitude and a heart of thankfulness. Being a state representative for the communities that raised me has been the privilege of a lifetime. I'd like to start by thanking my office family. Each of you has been so incredible, and I couldn't do without you. Sean, David, Jen, Marie, Steve, Sharon, and especially my office manager, Doreen, and the many people I've been privileged to work with over my 12 years. You're my family and my safe haven. Thank you so much for everything. To HMSO, chief clerks, and the sergeant at arms, thank you so much for all your hard work and for putting up with me and all the work that I end up engendering. A special thanks to Ali and Michael and HMSO. Thank you both also for putting up with me, our committee's workload and the volume, and to the two of you for doing such an amazing job in facilitating the Labor and Consumer Protection and Commerce Committee's work. I'd also like to thank each and every one of you for allowing me the privilege of serving as a chair for these past 6 years. You've allowed me to pursue an array of ambitious reforms and sometimes outside the box ideas. But to all my past vice chairs, thank you for your support and help. As I look at each member, I realize that I've learned a lot, something from each of you and every one of you. And on a lighter note, some notable examples include frugality from Matayoshi, street smarts from Stace, and constancy from my friend of over 28 years, Lisa. My current vice chair has been everything from my high school student government comrade and debate foe, just very good at debate, to my fastest canvasser and one of my roughest dog-filled precincts. To my neighboring area colleagues, it's been a real privilege to serve alongside of you. Moanalua and Aiea is such a special region, and your partnership to strengthen this region and its diverse communities has left an indelible imprint on me and our community. Mahalo to the CIP and FinChair for helping us to build up our communities and for the many projects that will benefit this region for generations to come. To Nishimoto Della Shima. D. Onishi and so many others. Thank you for adopting me into the family. And to Saiki and Sylvia, friendship has been both professionally and personally life-changing. And I'll be forever grateful. I've always believed that to whom much is given, much is required, and I've endeavored to give my all to this incredible opportunity. And as this season of service in the House of Representatives comes to a close, I'm looking forward to giving my all to other worthy endeavors. For nearly 2 decades, my family has fully supported my seemingly crazy aspirations, and that support has allowed me to chase my dreams while working at the White House, the U.S. Treasury, and the Hawaii State Legislature. Each time I utter my plans, my faithful parents would respond with the same unwavering support, even if I could tell that they were secretly thinking, where does our only son come up with these absolutely crazy ideas? I wouldn't be here without them, and I'm looking forward to reciprocating that support and being there for them with my all in this next season of their lives. To my friends, my volunteers and supporters, people like Wali Naito and Kosei Yamane, who maintain their exquisitely detailed Japanese wooden fences, who would desecrate them every election cycle by literally nailing my signs to these beautiful fences, to the many volunteers who have canvassed tens of thousands of pieces, and especially to the folks who would stand on the side of the road with me for the activity, the only campaign activity that I really, really, really do not care for. I'm so grateful and wouldn't be here without their support. And most of all, thank you so much to the amazing people of Moanalua Gardens, Foster Village, Aiea on Lower Pearl Ridge, Red Hill, Aliamanu, and Fort Chapter. You've given me the privilege of a lifetime to represent you for the past 12 years. Thank you to the many community leaders who faithfully serve our region and inspire me every day to be a better leader with their tireless work on behalf of our community. To the people of my district and my region, I say thank you for your support, your grace, and your friendship. I am truly, truly blessed to hail from such a special area. And to all of you who remain to carry on the good work of the House, I wish you nothing but the best and hope that no matter what unexpected events come your way, the result, like my tie, will simply be an adding to your character and the character of the body. It's been an incredible 12 years, and thank you all so much for everything.
Thank you, Representative Johansson. Our next member is Representative Henry Aquino, who was elected in 2008, and he has served as chair of the Committee on Transportation, as well as the Committee on Public Safety and Military Affairs. And as we all know, Representative Aquino is one of the most unflappable members of the House. Nothing faces him, even when his bills are leveraged or killed. Representative Yamani, could you please present the certificate and link? And we have some remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know whose idea it was for this guy to give me my lays, but thank you very much. First and foremost, a big mahalo. To the people of Waipahu, who afforded me this amazing honor and privilege to serve in the House since 2008. It's been a struggle to find the right words for today, but what I can say for certain is that it's been a blessing and an honor to serve alongside all of you, Mr. Speaker. Being around for nearly 14 years, there's a certainty that you'll pick up things along the way that are teachable and meaningful memories and moments. I've learned so many lessons, too many to count. But the ones that I would like to share are lessons on the institution, about humility, self-control, collaboration, and perseverance. From the floor sessions where freshman members are called upon to answer questions from the speaker at any time of the session to test your institutional knowledge and to make sure that you're paying attention, to getting your bill held in committee. I would like to thank former Representative Jerry Chang for that teachable moment in humility. As a freshman, he introduced me to the vote to hold. Yeah. Long story short, he heard one of my bills in his committee, higher ed, I believe, and voted to hold. I'm a freshman at that time, my very first session. And in fact, I didn't know what that was. I really thought it was a good thing. But I found out that it was not. What a way to get introduced to the legislative process, Mr. Speaker. Mahalo, Jerry, for that. In my early days in the House, the old timers always shared that we needed to learn to pick and choose our battles and to choose wisely and to distinguish the differences between needs and wants. It is something that I've held on to and shared with our younger members over time. Oh, and here's another lesson that I learned, Mr. Speaker. If you're planning to vote no on a bill, please make sure that the speaker is not on the text thread. Yeah. I've also learned that we're all public servants, and we never get to serve in this chamber without the help and support of many people. I would like to recognize them at this time. Mahalo to the Chief Clerk's office, print shop, Sergeant's office, and the custodial staff for always taking good care of us. Thank you to the HMSO staff and the LRB office for working with my office over the years. Mahalo to all of you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and your predecessors for the opportunities to serve as a committee chair for several committees. And you, Mr. Speaker, allowing me to serve as co-convener of the Filipino Legislative Caucus for the last several years. A very special mahalo to Speaker Say for trusting me as a sophomore to head a committee for my first time and having confidence in my abilities. I'd also like to express my appreciation for our colleagues of today and the past, as I've mentioned earlier. Whether you know it or not, each of you have played an impactful role in my experience here. I value each and every one of you. My hope for all of us sitting here today on the floor is that we continue our own journeys, whether it's in our current capacities or elsewhere, in the spirit of service. Let's continue to do our very best on behalf of our people and our great state. My best wishes to all of you, and mahalo for the memories. In particular, I'd like to wish my last classmate standing from the class of 2008, the good representative from the Big Island, who also chairs the Judiciary Committee, all the best. Don't let these younger guys push you around and make you go faster, okay? A special mahalo and shout out to my amigos. The rep for Waipio Gentry and our former colleague from the 39th House District. Thank you for your friendships and hard work over the years. Who would have thought, Mr. Speaker, that a 3-member faction could play a role in this 51-body chamber? Maybe our friends in the minority can take notes. Thank you, Gene. Kidding aside, mahalo to my friend from the 37th District. Despite the harassment, bad ethnic jokes, and putting up with his emotional side, I'm truly grateful for our brotherhood. As the good representative from Kauai once said, sometimes you want to hug them, sometimes you want to choke them. Mahalo, Rep Yamani. A special acknowledgement of thanks to my office staff, headed by my office manager, Marina Andrade. Please stand. She's been with me from the very beginning. Thank you so much. Mahalo to my session staffers, Jeannie Nankis and Renelle Reyes. Please stand. I'm truly grateful for your hard work, commitment, and service to the 38th House District. Very special acknowledgement for my parents. As some of you may know, in 2019, I lost my father after a short and fierce battle with lung cancer. He was my rock, Mr. Speaker. And I just hope I made him proud. Lastly, a very special mahalo to my family, especially my wife, Cindy. I think she's still here. Cindy, please stand. Thank you for always supporting me and the family. Definitely would not be here without your love, patience, and sacrifices. Thank you, and I love you very much. I'd like to close with scripture as a prayer reminder for all of us. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Let's keep working hard, no matter where we are, for the people of our great state. Let's always strive for better in the future. Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues. It's been a privilege to serve with all of you. Mahalo.
Thank you, Representative Aquino. Our next member is Representative Bob McDermott, who was elected in 1996 and again in 2013. And as we all know, Representative McDermott just is the kind of guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. Representative Matsumoto, could you please present the certificate and link? You have some remarks.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I do. First of all, I want to thank God for showering me with blessings, including the blessing to be here and serve with all of you. I want to thank the staff, all the way from the custodian, everyone in this building up to the governor's office. I particularly want to note Sergeant Arms and Tom Alani. You know, when I had injured my back, I don't know if you remember, but I certainly do. I was in great pain. I couldn't walk. Poor representative from Hawaii Kai was trying to lumber me around at 300 pounds, and he wasn't having much success. She made sure I was taken care of, that I could get from point A to point B, and I'll never forget her checking on me constantly. Mr. Speaker, you and I have shared probably more time in the past 2 years in the elevator riding up than we did in the previous 25. And you, this is a compliment. You are the OG progressive. You are the Dr. Dre of progressives. You're the original. And don't anybody tell you otherwise, because I've seen you in action and you were the original one. Finance Chair, I said my private goodbyes to you, but your kindness will not be forgotten. Majority Leader, same thing. I've grown to have a friendship with you. Mr. Speaker, I don't want to, well, I have to keep it short. So I just want to say, I want to acknowledge my brother from another mother, the colleague from Eva Beach. As he pointed out, there's not much politically we agree on. So, but we start from that reference point, but we enjoy a good friendship. I call him at times when I am troubled about something, not necessarily political, but going on in life. And I don't know if you follow Eva Beach politics, but it's still kind of the wild, wild west out there. And one time during a re-election campaign, he and I were on the side of the road out Fort Weaver, thousands of cars coming. And we're arguing, yelling at each other with our big signs up. I guess people thought we were talking about politics. We were arguing about Catholic doctrine. It's a true story. I want to talk about my minority members. Val, first time I met you, I saw your 1,000,000-watt smile and I said, she's a winner. And she had all these people supporting her and I knew she would be successful and she works hard. And as a mom with 2 young children, I don't know how you do it. Lauren, they should give you a cape as Superwoman because you've got a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old. And I don't know how you do it. Plus that long drive in, but you are super organized, extraordinarily talented. And you have taught me, along with the fellow from Mo'ili, that you attract a little bit more flies with sugar than vinegar. Lastly is my big brother. Well, not lastly, my big brother. I can't talk about him, Mr. Speaker. He is the reason I got elected. So if you don't like, you got to blame him. I'm sure you will. but if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have got elected. And he has been a mentor and a big brother throughout the years. And this is over since 1994. We've known each other. I love him, Mr. Speaker. I have practiced this speech a little bit. And each time I thought about him, I broke down and cried. So I'm not going to do that. Finally, Mr. Speaker, now this is final. Aside from my staff, who I introduced earlier, any success I've had in life or been able to stumble into accidentally is due to my wife. My bride of 36 years, I still hold her hand because I'm afraid someone's going to steal her from me. I've got a mirror, let's face it. A mother of 8, a grandmother to 10. She is the reason that I've been able to do anything. So, honey, thank you, Fafatai, my gingy. Aloha and God bless you all.
Thank you, Representative McDermott. Our next member is Representative Angus McKelvey, who was elected in 2006. He has served as chair of the Committee on Government Reform, the Committee on Economic Development and Business Affairs, the Committee on Higher Education, and the Committee on Consumer Protection and Commerce. We know Representative McKelvey is one of the more multi-dimensional thinkers in the House, but someone who never takes things personally. Representative Clark, could you please present the certificate and lei? We have some remarks.
Yes, I guess Representative Clark drew the short straw. I'm joking. Thank you so much, Representative. Oops. I greatly appreciate it, and true to my style, I dropped my certificate. Well, Mr. Speaker, colleagues, to quote the band, the Grateful Dead, what a long, strange trip it has been. 2006 was a really different place. I got sucked into politics because I was ticked off at the fact that the money, the CIP for West Maui had died in the House yet again. And so I decided, you know what? I can either complain, I can get mad about it, or I can do something about it. I can go and try to make a difference. I can leave the place I love to come into a place I only spent time as a staffer before and had seen it from that view. And you think as a staffer, you're like, wow, I would never do what these guys are doing in a million years. I like being able to go to the grocery store and not get yelled at. But I knew it was for a greater cause, a cause I think that binds all of us. Because we wanted to take care of our community, our family, our friends, the people who mean the most to us. We want to see them be lifted up by the work that is done in a place, for me on Maui, that is far away. And so with that, I came over here, and what an experience it was. I was lucky to be part of a class, an unprecedented size of 13 members, including you, Representative Ward, as a returning quasi-freshman. And at that time, the State House, when we came in, the average age was well above our years. I mean, Sharon, we were what? The young under 40 crowd, Della, these upstarts coming into the State House of Representatives. I look at my younger colleagues now and I'm like, wow, you want to talk about upstarts. But we all came in, and from the word go, it was a bang. And we were blessed to have many people here to mentor us along the way. For me, it was Bob Nakasone. He took me aside, he looked me up and down, and he threw dried squid on the desk and looked at me, okay, brother, you gonna eat this? Do you want local? Or you one of those loudmouth Californians from Lahaina I hear about all the time? And from there, a friendship was born between he and I. You know, Mr. Speaker, I made a conscious decision to leave this August buddy and all of you who I love and have enjoyed working with, because I wanted to have the honor and privilege of being able to say goodbye. There's so many of our members who've gone before us who were never given that opportunity. I think about my good friend, Joe Bertram, who, as one lobbyist said, didn't have a mean bone in his body whatsoever. The kindest, gentlest soul you ever met. I think about my dear friend, and I know she would be so proud of us today for what we've done for the Native Hawaiian community, Representative Mele Carroll, who left this earth not seeing what she worked so hard for over the years. tirelessly, just trying to better the lives of her people. I think she looks down upon us today. Maintain, Angus. You know, and I learned a lot with my freshman class. We discovered that, wow, there's 13 of us. We might actually be able to affect change right away. And we had the Speaker of the House and, you know, the potential speaker come and address us. And we became quite tight-knit from the word go. And we had quite the amazing stories and adventures. Jimmy, I remember the Kanalua vote. We were like, what's Kanalua mean? Oh, it simply means you pass until the final round. And Jimmy goes, I'll tell you what Kanalua means. It means you have no guts, except he didn't use the word guts. Sharon, you and I have been colleagues in arms on voting no against claims against the state more often, I think, than any legislators in history. And while it became a badge of honor through thick and thin to do it, I think it also was a statement of the values that we always tried to keep throughout the years. To maintain, to be true to the average folks out there. And to make sure that when the decisions are made, they're not made in the best interest of upstairs or down the street, but in our homes, in our towns. You know, I want to also go ahead and I want to thank my family. And, you know, I want to thank my lovely wife, Val. She has been through a lot with me. Has been there for me. And we've had quite spiritual discussions and political ones. And she reminds me too, hey, you do it for us and for the people like us, our friends. You don't do it for the people who have private jets. You do it for regular folk. I also want to go ahead and I want to remember somebody who was with me, who was like, you go, Angus, you run and do this, who was my steadfast champion. One who, every time I'd come home on the weekend, she would listen with just absolute interest in every little nuance and turn in this building, every decision, every backstory. And that, I lost her just this last year. It's my mom. And many of you knew her. She was not only a source of inspiration to me and a guiding foundation of rock, but she was to the town I live in and my community. And it was very hard for me losing her. I think I'm finally grieving for her right now. But I know the decision I'm making to move forward in my life is the decision that she would have said if she had been here sitting next to me. And of course, you know her, those who knew her, she would insist she'd be sitting on this floor right now with a lay on. And she would be like, right, it's time to move on, Angus, and serve your community in a bigger way. Because you've done the work for your community here and you meant a lot to us, but you need to try to see you can do more of what you can do for everybody in this town. And I may not be successful. None of us may be. We serve at the will of our community, and they may not support us in our endeavors. But I can tell you this, that no matter what we do in life moving on, I know it'll be a richer experience. I know that we will have had qualities that we now carry with us that were made because of our friendships. We've broken bread together and we've crossed swords together. We've laughed together, we've cried together. We have faced the onslaught of communities. We've talked about the session of marriage equality, which was the most chaotic, inspirational thing I'd ever seen. We talk about Super Ferry, where we had people in droves in and out of the building like you wouldn't believe. We've talked about the little things, the big things, things that at the time we thought was going to change the world, and in 10 years, you're like, whatever happened to that bill of law? And little things that we did, especially during the pandemic, that made a huge difference in people's lives. And I think that's really what has continued me to try to do something bigger and better. Helping people with their UI, such a mundane thing, you'd think. Helping to give them money to get the resources they need so they wouldn't starve was so important to me, I can't tell you. To get emails from a mother saying, thank you for your help. Because of that, my kids will have food this Christmas. They will have presents. And Mr. Speaker, through this journey, when I first came in here, I was very blessed to have an amazing office manager. And she came in and she was like, wow, what did I get stuck with this Howley guy here? And Wendy Wilson taught me a lot. And she was my rock and she worked hard. And she became a friend and a family to me. And it was kind of fitting, as we come full circle in many things, that she came to work with me yet again. And I definitely could not have done it without her. And I know going forward, I won't be able to do it without her and her family. Her son, Kamana, it was funny, when I first came in, was a little kid, smart, intelligent, playing video games on his computer. And now he's a grown, young, articulate man who's playing video games on his computer. Oh, and finally, again, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you. And I want to thank Sylvia. And I want to thank Della. D, how many text messages did you get? Yes, no, up, down, pull the green slip, no, maybe. And I appreciate Nadine. I think Takashi really said it the best. There are people who are doing amazing things to actually move the needle like they've never been moved. And I thank you for everything you've done, because I profoundly have seen change that I didn't think would ever happen, to stop the broken record we all hear every election year. I want to thank my Republican colleagues. Val, Bob over there, made me feel uncomfortable in an elevator several times. And Gene, of course, you, my brother from another mother, the voice of the conscience in my committee, and a statesman. You know, many times I was not the most pleasant chairs and was abrupt and quick with you, and we had our battles, but you were always there to shake hands and to be the bigger person and to remain friends. And I appreciate all of you. You've added a strong voice to representation of Hawaii, a counter view that needs to be represented. And to all the young reps who I've gotten to know, and I'm really sucks about this COVID thing is I lost a year to really get to know you better. But I'm absolutely blown away by all of you already. Just last night, you know, to put a skit together in 5 minutes, it took what, Sharon, Jimmy, what, us, a week and a half? We still couldn't get it right. Jella. You guys have incredible courage, fortitude. You're not afraid to make the tough decisions. You're grounded. And I hope that you will stick with this, because you are needed now more than ever. And I know if my mom was here, she'd be like, right, especially to see strong, young, independent women in politics. Both my senior members who serve with me, like Nicole, to Janae, to Lisa, all of you, she would be so proud of you, because she was one who had to shatter glass ceilings that were impenetrable at her time. And to know that you were here and continuing to make a difference and fight for true representation would make her proud. So that's all I really have to say. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I thank my community. I thank my island. My watch has ended. Aloha.
Thank you, Representative McKelvey. Our final member is Representative Sylvia Luke, who was elected in 1998. She has served as chair of the Committee on Finance, as well as the Committee on Judiciary. And as we have noted, she will go down as the greatest finance chair in state history. Representatives Nishimoto and Yamashita, could you please present the certificate and lei? Could you have some remarks without crying?
I was kind of crying until Nishimoto made a snarky remark. And I'm so glad I'm leaving because I don't have to deal with his snarky remarks daily. Although he probably will call me at 10 o'clock when he wakes up to give me snarky remarks. Mr. Speaker, I would first like to thank my family, especially my husband and my son, Logan. As you know, family members make sacrifices so that we can be here. And so if there's family members up there, if you could stand. Come on, I see you, Belle. Family members stand. Nobody wants to take me up further. The one who's not standing is my husband. See, now you know my pain. And I want to thank my staff, all my present and prior staff for making us all better people. And I'm trying to get the speaker to cry, but you know, he have a heart of stone, so he's not gonna cry. So I'm gonna keep trying until, you know, he's gonna shed some tear. My heartfelt gratitude to the residents of my district for giving me the honor to represent them the last 24 years. I took my first oath of office when I was just 30 years old, and I thought I was young then, but imagine all the young representatives here today, Representative Tam, Representative Gates, Representative Capella, all those others, and all the semi-young ones like Matayoshi, Lisa, and Stacy. You know, you folks inspire me. I thought I was young then, but you know, to be filled in a chamber with young legislators like Gregor and you know, all you folks, Jackson, I mean, you folks inspire me. And I'm thankful for every lesson that I share with all of you folks. During my tenure, we visited so many people, especially on finance trips. We went to Lanai, we went to Molokai, we went to very remote areas to learn about issues that were important to them and to find solutions for challenges of the future. Every piece of legislation we passed here, every line item in the budget come from negotiation and collaboration. The measures that we have sent to the governor emerged after hours of public engagement and discussion. They were created with input from both chambers and informed by real experiences of all of our communities. This year, I'm thankful for our revenues because we were able to pass monumental legislation that will impact the lives of so many people for many years to come. And I think that was only possible. Yeah, I'm gonna take a breath. And that was only possible with the help of each and every one of you, from true collaboration, not just with the members of the House, members with the cabinet, members with the Senate, and the ability for all of us to work together. To my colleagues, I feel very privileged to have served alongside every one of you. I'm grateful for the relationship I've made. Each of you inspire me to do better and be better. I would treasure our friendships I have made over the years. Some of you often ask me, especially Representative Nakamura, how do I do what I do, withstanding many criticisms and carrying the burden of others? That's because I have learned from many of you. Although you don't explicitly live by these 4 rules, I have watched you and you live by these 4 rules. And they are, be the first to take the blame, be the last to take the credit, forgive each other often, and forget the wrongs against you. It has truly, it has been an honor to serve with all of you. God bless and aloha.
Okay, thank you, Representative Luke. Could all of our departing members please stand? All of our 9 members. So to our departing members, thank you. These members take with them collectively 103 years of House service. This group represents the best of us. They have a conscience, they keep their word, they are advocates, they are problem solvers, distorted sense of humor, but they all care and want Hawaii to move forward. The House will not be the same without you. We will miss all of you on behalf of our entire state. Thank you for your work and service and best wishes going forward. Thank you. So at this point, we'd like to hear some closing remarks from the Majority Leader and the Minority Leader. Majority Leader Belatti.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is such a hard act to follow. I'm going to start by just saying, first of all, thank you to all of our staff, the Chief Clerk's office, in our research offices, in our communications offices, in all of our individual offices. We could not do this work without you. This work that over the last 2 years has been some of the most challenging work that has been done by a state legislature. So again, hard act to follow all of those speeches. Since 2018, for the last 5 years, I have struggled with opening and closing day speeches. Today, this speech is no different and is no exception. It is even harder because of the tremendous change that this body will undergo, as demonstrated by the speeches that have preceded mine today. So here's a little insight. There's probably a little bit of a formula to these closing day speeches. We talk about all the tough issues that we worked on. We talk about the promises that were delivered. And we talk about how democracy is a work in progress. We know that this session has been unprecedented, historic, consequential, a banner year. These are just some of the words that have been used to describe the session. I'm going to allow the next 2 speakers to talk about the things that we accomplished. I want to focus my speech on the moments that are the in-betweens and how democracy is in fact a work in progress. For me, the in-betweens are the most important moments in this place. These are the moments in between everything that we do that the public never sees. These are the moments when we fight fiercely. I'm going to break protocol because everyone has been doing it all day. Representative Nishimoto, these are the moments when we fight fiercely. Representative Mizuno, when we struggle with negotiations. And for all of you, when we either cry with one another or laugh deeply together, because at the end of the day, we are humans and we feel the burdens and the slings of our jobs. And in many ways, we understand those burdens that each one of us carries. And I hope it's those in-between moments when we are friends, despite the words and the tempers that might flare and the factions that we may be in, but we are friends. And that is the most important thing. I want to talk about those in-between moments when you connect with the people you serve and you realize that the work that you are doing makes all the difference in the world. I'm reminded by this because of something that Representative Holt talked about yesterday, how he read testimony from Hema Watson and noted the historic moment we were investing finally in our Native Hawaiian keiki and future. For me, those constituents were Willie Shum and John Kimmel II during the marriage equality debates. And I was so privileged to be able to attend their marriage after we passed that historic law. For me, it was Jerry and MJ Sugano, the reason why we struggled to pass medical cannabis dispensaries. Decades after we had already passed and legalized medical cannabis. I hope for every one of you, and I know you do, you have those in-between moments with your constituents when you know that the work that we do makes all the difference. The third in-between moment I want to talk about, and I wish this for all of you, it's that in-between moment when you find that mentor who helps guide you through the legislative process, through the turbulent waters you know that we all swim through each and every day of the 60 days of a legislative session and each and every day of a busy interim, especially when you're given assignments and you take them on gladly. I have had one of those mentors, and I didn't stand up earlier and say it, but I want to quote back to you what she said on my very first opening day. Now, I want to correct the record a little bit. Some people think that on my first opening day, I was pulled along with these two senior members. Let me tell you, I was going out on my own because I was like that Representative Capella who's going to just stand up and speak and go for it, girl. But I was going to do it anyway. And these two mentors of mine, unbeknownst to me, were going to stand with me. I didn't ask them to stand with me, but they did. Because they understood that a young voice needs support. And this one mentor of mine in her speech, and this is what I'm going to take away from her. She said, quote, "We are all reformists by nature, and that's why we run for office, to bring changes that will benefit the public and make government responsive to its people. Many of us became legislators with the hopes and dreams to do great things and solve real problems. And that is what we need in our legislative mentors. I know for some of you, those mentors were Representative Takamine, Herkes, Nakasone, and Say. And I think we all have to find those mentors, whoever they are. So for my wish for the younger legislators is that you find those mentors. We're here, but then that you yourself become a mentor someday. I'm going to take those words from my mentor and live by that if I am so lucky to be able to return. Because we have to keep doing the work of the people to do great things and solve real problems. And I'm going to shift to democracy as a work in progress because we need to move away. And I do have to talk about some substance. For all that we have done this year, democracy is in fact a work in progress. We have to build on the historic measures we passed this year. House Bill 2511, connected to the $600 million consequential appropriation to DHHL to address its decades-long wait list. We are requiring them to submit a strategic plan about how this assistance will be used and expend this money wisely in 3 years. Senate Bill 2021, $21.5 million annually to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs and a one-time $64 million appropriation to OHA for just a portion of the income and proceeds from the Public Land Trust. But what did we also do? We put in there a working group that is going to have to determine how we allocate funds for the future. This is a political question that we have to continue to work on, because why? Democracy is a work in progress. Mauna Kea, House Bill 2024, there is a 5-year transition period in which the new Mauna Kea Stewardship and Oversight Authority will take over the reins of management and stewardship. Our work is not done there. Senate Bill 2473, the reformation of the Agribusiness Development Corporation, where we have reformed ADC, a troubled agency, so that it no longer reflects the plantation days of the past, but it has to address the new world so that we can have food security for our people. And I know that some will struggle with the fact that ADC has been transferred to DBED, but that is why we must come back, because it is a work in progress. House Bill 1800, Hawaii State Energy Office, where we're asking them to study to determine our pathway to decarbonization and to identify the challenges, opportunities, and actions that need to be taken in the transportation and agriculture sectors, the transitions and actions that need to be built into our state's energy workforce, and how we will consider the impacts and mitigation measures to our frontline low-income communities that so often carry a greater burden than other communities as we struggle with climate change. House Bill 2000, the $200 million for the School Facilities Authority to construct new school facilities and the renovation and improvement and expansion of existing school facilities to increase pre-kindergarten student capacity. We have to come back to make sure that they deliver on both of those promises. Democracy is a work in progress. House Bill 1579, where we have extended the date of the transfer and transition of the Oahu Regional Healthcare System from the Hawaii Health Systems Corporation to the Department of Health to December 2025. Why is that critical? Because we need the continuum of care for our kapuna. And finally, Senate Bill 2076, this one's a little bit closer to my heart. It's a sleeper bill. It appropriates $200 million in federal funds to UH for planning and implementation of broadband statewide. It requires the University of Hawaii and the Hawaii Broadband and Digital Equity Office to convene a working group to determine the appropriate governance structure to implement, operate, and maintain broadband infrastructure development in the state. If we have learned anything from this pandemic, we have learned how important we need to stay connected to one another. So broadband is going to be another 5 to 10-year project. Members, we have to do all of this. We have so much ahead of us, and yes, we can celebrate those things that we have accomplished, and we should, but there is so much work ahead of us. And I will leave you with this one thing, this one olelo. Ahoe hana nui ke alu ia. No task is too big when done together by all. That was shared with me by the Deputy Director of Department of Hawaiian Homelands. It is fitting for this day. It is fitting for this moment. And my aloha to all of you, because I know wherever we are in this state, that this body of 51 and the bonds that we have created will take us to a future that is brighter, where there is no task that is too big when done together by all of us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for the minority leader's remarks. Representative Okimoto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Majority Leader Balari, for your words. 4 years ago, I entered the doors to this building bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, having no prior legislative experience, nor even really knowing what to expect. I'm sure many of you witnessed me walking in a complete square to locate my office every day. The one thing I did know back then was that I had a heart to serve the people of Mililani and of our beautiful state of Hawaii. I'm grateful that that passion to do so is even stronger today. Tradition in the minority dictates that the minority leader should, in a way, rebuke what the majority delivers. That's not my style. That's never been my style. I've learned through these 4 years that a productive and efficient legislator is not just critical of the other side, but more importantly, respectful and understanding. Republicans, Democrats, Hawaiians, non-Hawaiians, locals, transplants. We are not adversaries. We are ohana. And sometimes ohana, well, we disagree on things. We're all in this pai'aina together, and we get to live in the greatest state in the country, our state. It was our state that saw the first two Asian American US Senators in Republican Hiram Fong and Democrat Daniel Inouye. It was our state that met the tides of World War II at its doorstep and stood firmly to protect the democracy this country holds so dear. And it is our state that is taking the initiative to correct historical wrongs. The passing of the $1 billion to our Native Hawaiian community is indeed a monumental moment in our history. And I am proud as those of us who were able to stand together yesterday to have been a part of it. To all the Native Hawaiians, past, present, and future, while there is so much work to do, your perseverance and grace through these many years will see your people thrive and flourish as they once did. And I believe that with all my heart. Mr. Speaker, colleagues, I want to impart on you some final thoughts as we end this legislative session. In a world filled with distractions, it is almost impossible to avoid getting caught up in the things you can't control. When we focus on the things we have no control over, we forget about what's most important, our own backyard. Each one of us here can take another to a place in their district that has deteriorated, been neglected, or abandoned, places in our own backyards. As you walk your districts and reconnect with your constituents, see if any of those places in your backyard are better than before. If not, then there is still plenty of work to do. And if we spend a little more time cleaning up our yards, the world will be a better place. When we feel as if we have no fight left within us, may we remember the words of our dear President Teddy Roosevelt in one of my favorite speeches, his speech entitled Man in the Arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory nor defeat. I pray that as we depart from this chamber floor today, regardless of what paths we may take, that we will never forget what is most important, and that is taking care of the people in our state, our own backyards. For our people here deserve better than what we have been providing them. May we not sit quietly, timid and afraid to stand up for what is right, but may we be like the man in the arena, strong, resilient, having integrity and purpose, willing to take risks because nothing great was accomplished by those who simply watch idly. Most importantly, may we love and respect each other regardless of what side of the aisle we sit, our ethnic backgrounds, or which neighborhood we come from. For that is what makes this beautiful state, our state of Hawaii, special. And that is how God has intended us to be. Mahalo nui loa.
Thank you, Representative Kimoto. So the chair just has some brief closing remarks. So first, thank you to our staff, Sergeant at Arms, Office of the Chief Clerk, Print Shop, our custodians, the Legislative Reference Bureau, our research offices, and our individual staff offices. Also, thank you to the Senate. Thank you to Senate President Kochi for not being a reactive person and for always staying above the fray so that he can help solve problems. And thank you to all of the members of the Senate for not leveraging all of our bills during conference. So on Wednesday morning at 12:30 a.m., after the adjournment of our Tuesday floor session, I received a text message from a media commentator who has often been critical of the legislature. And the text read, "Thanks. I understand the legislature has delivered real results for real people 100%. As we know, that text is completely accurate. And the credit goes to each and every member of this body. When you take a step back, there was no guarantee that the session would end the way that it did. And that is because in the past 2 years, every conceivable obstacle has been thrown at all of us. But you were resilient and you overcame all of the hurdles to deliver real results for real people. A $1 billion housing package that targets those in need. Hawaiian Homeland beneficiaries, families earning less than $100,000, homeless persons, an $18 minimum wage, plus an increased working families tax credit that will result in an additional $30,000 in income for a family of 4. The closure of Red Hill, a tax rebate of $250 million for Hawaii taxpayers. Mutual stewardship on Mauna Kea. And child welfare services, especially for foster kids and for adoptions. You know that our list this year is just too long to repeat. When we opened our session on January 19, I quoted from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech that he gave here in the House of Representatives 62 years ago. His call for justice, cultural justice, environmental justice, and economic justice resonates today. And your work has met Dr. King's call in a significant way. The bottom line is this: you have shifted the arc of justice in Hawaii in just 1 year. Yesterday at the Hawaiian Caucus event, I mentioned that I view this legislative session as a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough because the legislature envisioned the possible and then implemented it. In the process, you were unafraid to take on the most complicated and controversial issues. This is exactly how a legislature should operate. And as a result of your work, hundreds of thousands of people will have opportunity and a better chance in our state. So thank you for your work and have a great summer.
For the
motion to adjourn Sine Die, Representative Bellotti.
Mr. Speaker, I move this House stand adjourned Sine Die.
Representative Okimoto.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion.
All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. The motion is carried. The House adjourned Sine Die.